to public comment. Is there any public comment?
I don't have any.
Is there anyone, I know we have a number of participants. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment on the matters before the board today?
Put your name in the chat.
Yes, you can put your name in chat if you'd like. Hearing none, we'll move to the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Second.
And we have a first and second, so we'll do a roll call.
Asheville Kimroni.
Aye.
Asheville Maggie Ullman. Black Mountain Archie Portiller. He's still
Yes.
around.
Yes, thank you, Archie.
Buncombe County Amanda Edwards.
Aye.
Stanton Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Fletcher Bob Levy.
Aye.
Henderson County Rebecca McCall.
Aye.
Hendersonville Jennifer Hensley. Aye. Laurel Park George Banta.
Aye.
Okay, he's on.
All
Rushing
right.
on. Madison County Matt Westbrook.
Aye.
Maggie Valley Mike Evelyn.
I don't know if you could have.
Yes.
Waynesville Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
And Weaverville Catherine Cordell. Aye. The ayes have it.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to business, the park and ride identified needs.
All right, with this, I'll hand it off to John Barsanti, the regional TDM coordinator.
You have me structure.
Yes, all yours.
One moment while I get this.
How can you not be ready at this point?
Come on, man. Come on,
Just one quick.
I was. 23 minutes we've been sitting here, John. It takes 3. All right. Glad I'm among friends here. With friends like this. My name's John Barsani. I'm the Transportation Demand Manager, Demand Management Coordinator here at Land of Sky. And over the last couple of months, we've been looking at the park and ride situation from updating and improving the current locations to expanding them. Park and rides are a great opportunity to give people more options as to how to move out throughout the region. Park and ride facilities are primarily used for carpooling, vanpooling, bus, or rail transit. And one of the reasons why we are talking about this is to get the discussion going so that when we are looking at spot programs, we can incorporate them into the plans and then find funding for them. Over the last couple of months, I've identified 16 park and pool locations. These are areas that are not currently served by transit, and people would carpool from those locations. There are additional 12 park and ride possibilities where transit is within a stone's throw or right on top of the locations that we've identified. The reasons for doing a park and ride are multifaceted. One is to just reduce overall congestion, reduce fuel consumption, reduce emissions, hook up with transit, and then also as part of this process, we were trying to do an equitable distribution of facilities. Of the 28 locations that were identified as general areas for opportunities to expand park and rides, 10 are currently identified in the TIP. This list here is sorted by county, and it's not to be confused with existing park and ride locations across the region. These are just expanded opportunities. The reason why we need to really look at this is that we have roughly 20% of the population that is living outside of 25 miles or more. We've got 16,900 that are living in a 25 to 50 mile commute distance from the central business district, and that's what that red pin is representing. That's sort of the center of the 5-county area, not necessarily the central business district. We also have 30,000 people who are living 50 miles or more from us who are calling this where they want to work. So between the people in the 25 to 50 mile radius and the 50 mile and up, there's a good opportunity to incorporate carpooling in the area. One last slide that I'd like to show you compares where we are proposing park and rides, park and pools, and where people are traveling from here back to Charlotte, and then people who are traveling in to work for more than 50 miles out. So you can see that they're the same corridors, basically. So if we can capture some of these riders, then we can reduce congestion and we can better use our existing transit. What I'm looking for and what we talked about at the TCC was to advance a proposal to incorporate park and ride, park and pools in future programming. And Tristan will recount what we said.
Sure. So I think what we're considering for the board today is accepting of these as identified needs. These would then be carried forward into plans. So we'll be updating the region's CTP and MTP soon. From our point of view, this would be a starting point with identified needs for those. Also with projects advancing through prioritization, we would ask that any projects that do get funded at least consider the identified needs of park and ride from this exercise for incorporation in some of those projects. I think that's what we're asking for today. Zooming out a little bit is our region has roughly 18,000 people who report that their primary way of getting to work is carpool. I think it's something we don't talk about very much, but that's a huge share of workers who are reporting carpooling with people to get to work. As of right now, we have a number of park and rides through the region. Some of them are very popular. Mars Hill, I think it's basically people have created their own overflow at this point. And so there's locations where we're seeing a high demand for this. And I think helping to enable this kind of travel and enable safe carpooling, I think it's something that would be good for the efficiency of our transportation.
And I'll take any questions if anyone in the room or online has them.
Did you, for Ann Colette, she had mentioned something about the one in Flat Rock, the location. Has that been taken into consideration?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other discussion, comments, questions?
From Waverville's point of view, the one at New Stock Road would be great.
Good, glad to hear it.
So we're looking for a motion to accept approve identified needs for parks and rides facilities.
So moved.
Tim from City of Asheville, I can move it or second.
Thank you. Fantastic. So we
Asheville Kim Roney,
Aye.
Asheville Maggie Ullman, Black Mountain Archie Pertiller,
Aye.
Buncombe County Amanda Edwards,
Aye.
Canton Dr. Ralph Hamlet,
Aye.
Fletcher Bob Davy,
Aye.
Henderson County Rebecca McCall,
Aye.
Hendersonville Jennifer Hensley, aye. Laurel Park George Banta,
Aye.
Madison County Matt Wechsel,
Aye.
Maggie Valley Mike Eveland, Waynesville Anthony Sutton,
Aye.
and Weaverville Catherine Cordell. Aye. The ayes have it.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to go to wildlife parking identified needs, and I know that we were joking, but we're very proud of you
I guess the cat's a bit out of the bag, so I will mention that this is Scott Adams' last meeting with us. Scott will be moving on to the world of real estate development. But so I did want to say before we get started on this, Scott has been a fantastic addition to the MPO. We first started talking about wildlife crossings, I think back in December or so, and Scott was very much like, well, I'm no wildlife crossing expert. The fun thing at the MPO is you get to be a jack of all trades, and Scott has really poured himself into this work, as you're going to see, and done a lot of coordination and a lot of studying on this stuff. So we will miss Scott very much. We're hoping Scott will stay on around for MPO board game night. Anyway, I did want to mention that this is Scott's last meeting, and we are very grateful for all he's done for our organization.
Absolutely. And now you are an expert in wildlife crossing.
Well, thank you. And, yeah, I'll just briefly go through this presentation. So, long story short, some wildlife experts in the area approached the MPO about incorporating the potential for incorporating wildlife crossings into existing projects and certainly future projects. And it really grew out of a recent study that was done through the Pigeon River Gorge, and there's now an outgrowth of that called the Safe Passage Coalition, I believe. But what I'm going to show you today is really just an overview of general wildlife crossing typologies, and then I've also compiled a report and a map, which will be shared with you all shortly once it is finalized. I've just gotten some comments, actually just this morning, hot off the press from some of the wildlife folks. But just as a reminder, both the IPO and RPO aim for 3 C's within any kind of planning. It's to be comprehensive, cooperative, and continuous. And what you're seeing there on the right are the updated NPO and RPO boundaries, the red being the NPO, surrounding orange being the RPO, that's the Rural Planning Organization. And Kristen has had multiple iterations on this slide previously, but this is really just emphasizing that both the CTP and the MTP, and then of course the SPOT process, which ultimately informs the TIP, and the TIP being, I guess, the most semi-concrete identified list of projects for funding. We're really looking at incorporating elements of wildlife crossings into projects. And just to give you a quick parallel that's maybe got a bit more familiarity to you all, NCDOT has a complete streets policy, and in thinking about that, this is really, in a lot of ways, a similar approach of trying to get routine accommodation for wildlife crossings in transportation design. And there's a relatively famous researcher, at least in the world of wildlife research, named Marcel Husser with the Western Transportation Institute at Montana State University, that notes whether you've got an interest of wildlife safety, human safety, or just pure economics, you're going to be interested in one of those reasons for looking at wildlife crossings. And of course, just noted there on the bottom of the photo, routine accommodation in transportation design can happen through resurfacing, maintenance, or certainly new construction. And in terms of the terms that get bandied about, just a quick clarification on what we mean by a wildlife corridor versus a wildlife crossing. So the map there on the right, which I'll show a bit more in detail, the red-orange swaths and the yellow swaths, these are 2 sets of basically compiled data that was done by Wildlands Network and a couple other partners looking at the most critical areas for wildlife corridors, and that's a combination of waterways, ridges, public lands, different things like that. And then the crossings are what we're specifically talking about today in relation to the corridors. So why look at this now? Obviously, looking at, there's always a new acronym, so one that I learned in this research was WVC, that's a wildlife vehicle crash. It's basically referring to an incident where someone is driving and hits an animal, either, fatality or injury. They're costly, and there are preventative measures that can be looked at for these, particularly coming out of the current infrastructure bill, that's IIJA or BIL, that's bipartisan infrastructure law. There is a wildlife crossings pilot program contained within that. Obviously, this is a bit small on screen, but this is really just to illustrate that there's about $350 million currently budgeted over the next 5 years. And I'll share this slide shortly. This was compiled by ARC, which stands for Animal Road Crossing. It's a research group based in Salt Lake City, and they basically just kind of give a quick overview of the available funding, noting that at least 60% of the grant funds are to be awarded for projects located in rural areas, which makes sense if you're looking at the incidence of wildlife vehicle crashes. In terms of the impacts, the impacts are both obviously to wildlife, but also to humans, either through a fatality or an injury. The average cost of hitting even just a deer could be about $7,600. For better or for worse, we don't have moose in our region, but we do have elk, and that cost goes up rapidly, just considering the size of the animal. Looking more specifically at North Carolina, within the last few years, we've had close to 60,000 wildlife vehicle collisions. And CDOT does a very good job of at least collecting data when there's a police report, when there is a wildlife vehicle collision. Again, just looking at, this is a wildlife issue, but this is also very much a human issue, looking at both injuries and fatalities. And two recent studies that I built on for the maps and the reports that I'll give a highlight of in just a moment were done just last year. The one on the left was done by both Wildlands Network and the National Parks Conservation Association that looked at I-40 through the Pigeon River Gorge. And the one on the right that you're seeing there was a statewide study done of the entire state of North Carolina. 155 sites were identified and 20 top priority sites were identified, including several that are here in the region. So just for a quick overview of the Pigeon River Gorge study, there were 13 sites in North Carolina and 7 in Tennessee, with 4 high priority sites in North Carolina identified. And just a quick example there of the Herman Den site in the Herman Den Bridge, which is now actively, or it's completed yet, or it's still actively under construction, but the factors that were considered there for that wildlife crossing included just a couple of things shown here: ridge lines, the riparian areas along creeks. Also, several monitoring cameras were set up in the area to document both the types of species that were crossing through there and the volume of animals that were moving through. So 120 cameras over the 28 miles of the corridor. In terms of the statewide study, one really interesting statistic that comes out of that is noting that wherever you have about 5 deer vehicle collisions or 2 elk vehicle collisions per mile per year, the cost of putting in what's called deflection fencing, that's fencing along the roadway to either send an animal to an under or overpass or to a safer crossing spot at grade on the road, basically it's a cost benefit. If you're looking at those numbers of crashes, if you're able to see those numbers, the cost of fencing will pay for itself. In terms of, again, the cost of hitting a deer or an elk, you're talking anywhere from $6,000 to $70,000. And of the statewide study identified sites, 5 were in the Land of Sky region. And when I say the Land of Sky region, I mean the 5 counties that both we, the MPO, and the RPO cover. As for types of crossings, again, deflection fencing is something that runs throughout them, and it can range from anything to a static sign all the way up to a significant wildlife or under or overpass. The image there on the right is from, I believe, I-90 in Montana. And of course, with any of these, you're going to look at them like a buffet of choices, and you're really trying to match what you're doing in terms of physical infrastructure to both a given site and also the types of animals that are crossing there, if that's known. Just taking a look at signs, of course, there on the left, that's a static, standard MUTCD sign, that's manual and uniform traffic control devices. That is the FHWA document that basically regulates signs, stop signs are red, warning signs are yellow, what have you. In terms of interactive signs, two quick examples here. The image in the center is a dynamic messaging sign from Colorado DOT. Basically, sensors ahead in the road to detect movement. The one on the right there is US 191 in Yellowstone National Park. And of course, the inset that I've got there, this was actually coming out of a conversation that NPO and RPO staff had with wildlife experts last week. There was the comment about, oh, if you put a sign up, how effective is that? There's an awful lot of visual noise on the side of the road for drivers. So if you have a warning sign with a light surround on it, even just to give somebody a visual cue, you look at the sign and you're entering a corridor with a lot of wildlife, that may be helpful as well. Another emphasis on signs, and I'll show this in a minute, is your perception reaction time as a driver is key. If you're moving at a high speed, you've got less time to stop, but you may have more sight distance. If you're moving at a slower speed, obviously you have more time to stop. But this is an example in the photo there, actually from the Netherlands. Basically is a warning to drivers that there is a gap coming up where there's been exclusion fencing. So it's essentially a quick visual cue to drivers of, hey, there may be a greater likelihood of a wildlife crossing here. And
On the slide, I don't know, 4 or 5 ago, and it was like in North Carolina there were 60,000. Was that just in crashes alone, or was that actual injuries?
That's crashes in aggregate, in total.
And I think it was,
Okay.
2,800 human injuries.
And just to note, those are crashes that are reported to the police. So there are a number of crashes. Like I know someone, one of my neighbors said he thinks he might have hit a bear a few months ago, but didn't call anyone, so that doesn't show up.
That's 5 humans and someone.
But you report it if it's automobile damage, if you barely hit something, you might not report it, but.
Right. It's basically whether or not there's a police report.
You hit a bear, you know it.
Yeah.
And I think you're on.
Whether they
Correct. And so this is an example within the report. So US 64 at Panther Mountain in Transylvania County has been identified as a priority site. The interesting thing from the statewide study is it primarily identified sites, but it didn't get into a whole lot of specifics on the type of infrastructure that would be recommended. So this was kind of a quick thought exercise that I ran through, and actually we checked with a couple of different wildlife experts in a meeting last week, but basically building on the idea that if you're setting up exclusion fencing, that's just represented in these dashed lines on the side of the roadway. If you're trying to, and the yellow lines would be sort of a representative of, an animal crossing. If you're trying to give better sight distance to both the driver, if you're in a straight up way, and for the animal, if they're able to, when they are crossing, looking out, they're detecting lights and movement. It's basically just playing on the idea, and these are just, kind of quick diagrams of your cone of vision of what you can see at 30 feet away, 100 feet away, 240 feet away. Obviously, at a higher speed, you can see further out. Same thing applies if you're on a curve. There's what's called horizontal and vertical curvature. When you're driving through undulating topography, you're not going to be able to see as much. So this is just one quick example in the report of a possible recommendation for installing fencing on at least curved portions of the roadway so that you can set up a potentially safer crossing for sight distance. Another important note in the report is that we inventoried recent traffic levels. So on this portion of the roadway, the 2021 traffic count was about 7,300 vehicles a day. We also pulled from our travel demand model, and again, it is a travel demand model, so it's a projection into the future, but traffic along this segment of roadway, at least for the last projections, was projected to almost double up to about 14,000 vehicles a day. So that's just a quick example of one type of crossing that's been identified. Obviously, underpasses, whether it's an existing culvert with a bobcat there or a purpose-built underpass, can be another really good solution. Obviously, it's a cost proposition if you're doing anything new or retrofitting, but oftentimes, again, with a retrofitting, there are opportunities there. Just have a note there that natural bottom culverts are more effective at supporting aquatic species. So if you're looking at fish or salamander habitat, it's an important consideration, particularly for new construction and replacement. Bridges and overpasses, again, great opportunities for crossings, either retrofitting an existing bridge by, I'll show in a moment, essentially digging out the sides further so that you have a level crossing, or again, on the right there, that's much more extensive purpose-built wildlife overpasses. Another issue is that you can also get multifunctionality. What I mean by that is you can, if you're looking at hydrology, particularly flooding, that's an opportunity to create a flat space under a bridge that will also serve wildlife crossing underneath that. And of course, we talk about deer and elk and moose, but it's also not just for big critters, as I put on this slide. This is an example of Gorges State Park, where 3 small concrete culverts were purposely installed underneath the park road when the park was opened, or I believe, 2009. And Wildlands Network, which is a nonprofit that's doing a lot of work both here in North Carolina and across the country, has documented that armadillos on the upper right, bobcats, rattlesnakes, and turtles are using these culverts to cross under the road. And this site has also been identified as part of their top 20 list. So there's a question about, what works. Obviously, if you're looking at fencing and under overpasses, it's got a much higher success rate than just something like a standard sign. But if you're doing either a seasonal sign or a dynamic warning sign that's got some kind of detection for an animal in the roadway in advance, that can have a greater reduction in collisions. And then, of course, talking about some details, again, this is a map, the acronyms that you see there in the legend, BRF/WN, that's Blue Ridge Forever /Wildlands Network Priority Corridors. And Priority 1 and Priority 2 were just that, first priority, second priority, and they're largely following, again, either ridges, waterways, large contiguous areas of public lands, whether that's national forest or other conservation easements. And in terms of what's been mapped, these are 2 maps that you're looking at here. It's the same sites in the Pigeon River Gorge. I just wanted to show you the attributes that are for each site. And in the lower right there, I highlight the Pigeon River Bridge, which has been identified for deflection fencing and what's called and also what's listed as a level bench path. That's essentially a dry crossing that you can install in a culvert, either a bridge or a pipe. So gave each of these a unique identifier. So Haywood County gets HACO on down the line. Also, any STIP projects were identified in these crossings as well. So just really trying to get a lot of information together. At the Buncombe County, Haywood County line, this is just an example of, taking an inventory of the existing infrastructure that exists along I-40 and US 19. Basically, again, looking at, what's to the north of there, what's to the south of there in terms of conserved lands. Just this morning, I got an update from Steve Goodman with the National Parks Conservation Association. He is their conservation biologist. They are currently doing camera monitoring in North Madison County and into Tennessee. So basically from exit 9 north, and that's US 19 is exit 9. There was just a brief discussion from him of possibly retrofitting the existing bridge underpass with a wall closer to those posts to make more of a level crossing. Also looking at Big Laurel and Wolf Laurel exits, again, basically taking that same thinking of at some point trying to retrofit that to have a flat path on the side, both for wildlife and also in that previous instance, that would be an opportunity for the Appalachian Trail as well. And in closing, this is actually an example of a project further west from us at Socoa Gap, where the NCDOT again, is trying to get sort of a 2-for-1 of realigning the crossing of both the Appalachian Trail and proposing a wildlife overpass. And with that, thank you for your time and interest, and I'd be glad to take any quick questions.
Quickly, so the Buncombe County number 6, which is out the Weaverville Mars Hill Way, its ranking is low. It's the only one on there with a ranking of low. Just tell me.
Yeah, so I, in trying to look through these, I was looking at certainly, the incidents of animal crashes in the area, and also looking along the speed and the amount of traffic on a given roadway. So I believe I had a couple, and you're looking at just the subset for Buncombe County, I believe, from the agenda packet, is that right?
Right. Yeah.
Right, and there were some other, low-ranked ones throughout the region, and it's not to say that it's not a priority, but in terms of trying to quickly identify the priority, that was, in a couple instances, that was the reason for giving a low priority ranking.
That didn't really answer me. So is the reason that it equals low is because there hasn't been a human death, or there hasn't been, like as many crashes as there is somewhere else?
Yes, yeah, and also, it's a low priority if it's not an easy place to do some kind of retrofit solution.
Okay.
Any other questions for Scott? And we don't have to take any action on this at the moment.
We are looking for approval of these identified needs for consideration and to add into plans.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion to approve these identified needs.
So moved.
Thank you. We have first and second. Roll call?
Asheville, Cameroni.
Aye.
Asheville, Maggie Ullman. Black Mountain, Archie Pertiller.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Amanda Edwards.
Aye.
Canton, Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Fletcher, Bob Davy.
Aye.
Henderson County, Rebecca McCall.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Laurel Park, George Banta.
Aye.
Madison County, Matt Wexel.
Aye.
Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
And Weaverville, Catherine Cordell.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Okay. We'll move on to, I think this is the last item that we'll need a vote.
We will need a vote on the declaration of the Great Trail State Day.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So this is the updated 5307 sub-allocations formula.
Yes, so 5307 funds are urban transit funds that the Federal Transit Administration sends to the region, and this is just a quick overview of some changes from the census that have affected funding locally here in the region. Just as a reminder, since we're a region of over 200,000 people, we have an entity that's known as a designated recipient that is currently the city of Asheville, and so they essentially receive federal funds, and then the MPO is actually responsible for determining the percentage allocation. So recently, the amount that the region's been receiving has been about $4 million coming from FTA. Again, the MPO is sort of an interim step in determining the percentage of those funds that go to both the recipient and subrecipients. Additionally, the MPO holds a call for projects for JARC, or Jobs Access for First Commute funding. It's locally been a practice to set aside 10% of the 5307 funds for that purpose. And then these percentages that are shown here are the most recent percentage amounts, and I've got a note there on Haywood County that as of this fiscal year, they are phasing out of 5307 eligibility due to U.S. Census changes. The county may become eligible again for these funds depending on the outcomes of Census 2030, but I'll give you a bit more detail on these changes and the percentages. So just as a quick reminder, the NPO and its transit partners conducted a study in 2017 to look at different formulas for allocating these funds. There were 9 different alternatives reviewed, and alternative 9, which was essentially the FTA's baseline formula minus revenue miles, was chosen as the formula. The reason that revenue miles were excluded from the formula is that basically urban transit service versus rural transit service differs in how it calculates revenue miles. With urban transit service, the bus leaves the depot yard, but it doesn't start counting revenue miles until it's in active service. Rural transit service or demand response is calculating revenue miles the minute it takes off on a trip to pick somebody up. So I believe through my best research and understanding that this alternative was chosen to essentially equalize those 2 different types of service. This past year, the census urbanized areas were finalized, and a key change in that, and I believe this has been presented previously, but I'll just quickly go through it, is that hops and jump distances changed, and I'll show you what that means in a minute. So in terms of our urbanized area, that's the basis for basically the MPO's planning area, and also certainly for funding. We're looking, the MPO planning area, it's the urbanized area plus an area that's expected to urbanize over 20 years. And of course, again, citing the language that sets that requirement. Just as a reminder, just last month, the MPO's planning boundary was updated. This was largely a change to reflect census geography. Previous boundaries, as you can see there in southern Haywood County, were done partly on watersheds. That makes it complicated for updating demographic analysis. So on the left is the previous boundary for the MPO boundary. On the right there in red is the current MPO boundary. In terms of the urbanized area, the census criteria for 2010 was actually different than the 2020 census criteria. This was the Census Bureau that changed these criteria. The key thing that really changed our boundaries between 2010 and 2020 was what is called hops and jumps. Previously, there was a standard of a 2.5 mile gap between areas defined as urban or rural, and that dropped to 1.5 miles. So here on the screen, I can see if I can highlight this. This area, basically between Candler and Canton, is what changed between 2010 and 2020 in terms of the actual urbanized area. Previous to that, Haywood County was considered part of the actual urbanized area. As of 2020, Haywood County now has 2 separate urbanized areas of its own. Waynesville and Canton. Brevard has always been separate. And again, this is really just for reference, the previous discussed, but in that sort of green-gray shading, that's the actual urbanized area. Haywood County and obviously Brevard having their own now. In terms of what changed, grew or shrank, the actual urbanized area actually shrank somewhat. And if you were squinting really hard again at that gap between Candler and Canton on the Haywood-Buncombe County line, you would probably see specks of red where it shrank. That's what triggered the change. This is where the urbanized area is expected to change over time over the next 20 years. And in terms of numbers, the population of the actual urbanized area actually went up a bit. Again, the land area shrank somewhat. And in terms of the implications for transit funding, this is really just a quick summary of kind of what's going on in terms of numbers. So the region receives, in the last few years, has been receiving about $4 million a year, 10% of that being set aside for JARC, that Jobs Access Reverse Commute program. Just noting here that in the last, in fiscal year 2023, City of Asheville was at 42.6, Buncombe County 28.6, Haywood County at 8.3%, Henderson County at 20.4. With the census change in Haywood County leaving eligibility for these funds, the resulting percentages for the remaining subrecipients and the designated recipient of the City of Asheville increase a bit. And what was discussed with our 5307 subrecipient work group, both in the spring and actually just a week ago, was essentially looking at the funding options. The decision was made to stick with the existing formula, updating it with census population and national transit database numbers when they become available. Two other options were discussed of looking at choosing another alternative from the previous study or starting completely new with a new formula funding study. On September 12th, we met with, again, the subrecipient group, and these three key points came out. One, continuing to use the existing formula minus Haywood County per the census changes. There was discussion of trying to use more uniform data sets from the National Transit Database. For instance, Form FAA-10 is something that is used uniformly across all agencies, so that was an interest in discussing that. Lastly, there was the discussion of the total funding picture. So, for example, City of Asheville using additional local funds dedicated from their local general funds, also looking at agencies that have access to different state level funds, SMAP being state maintenance funds, and ROAP is rural assistance. I don't remember the acronym right off.
Rural Operating Assistance.
Thank you, yes. That's obviously only available to rural agencies. And with that, I'd be glad to take any questions. Just double check up here.
Can you go back and exit full screen? Because I think Henderson County's apportionment might have gotten cut off on the,
Well, please do, and then I'll make the point of saying that for Haywood County, they did not take into consideration topography limitations. And if I recall, how many houses were we?
2 to 5 was
2 to 5 houses to make the jump. And we actually sent people out trying to find people within that distance.
Is this the slide you wanted?
Yeah. So I think really what we're asking for today is the MPO's role to determine how the transit funds, the urban transit funds that come to the region, get split up. And we need to update this today because in FY24, Haywood County will no longer be an eligible subrecipient for these funds. So we will be going from 4 recipients of these funds to 3 recipients. So we have to update essentially our formula and how we're going to be distributing these funds. A couple of minor changes we've made to the resolution that reflects this is, one, we've removed the exact percentages. It's basically just, here's the formula that we're going to use to determine distribution. The important part of that is that, and there is a clause in the resolution, is that enables that should there be a change, should Haywood County or Madison County join the urbanized area, the resolution says that they will start receiving the funds. We will just update the formula with them in it, because in the past, there has been delays from when people have become eligible to when they start receiving the funds. And so this resolution updates that, so we shouldn't have that delay in future cycles.
Any other questions, comments? So what we're looking for is consider approval of the 5307 subrecipient formula.
Move we accept the formula.
Thank you.
And second that.
Thank you. Roll call.
Asheville, Kim Rooney.
Aye.
Asheville, Maggie Olman. I think she left, but she said yay.
No, she's there.
Oh, there she is.
Yes.
Black Mountain, Archie Portiller. Buncombe County, Amanda
Aye.
Edwards.
Amanda Edwards, aye.
Canton, Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Fletcher, Bob Davy.
Aye.
Henderson County, Rebecca McCall.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley. Aye. Laurel Park, George Banta.
Aye.
Madison County, Matt Wexel.
Aye.
Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
And Weaverville, Catherine Cordell.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Just one quick follow-up is, the city of Asheville, as the designated recipient, has undergone what's called the triennial review from FTA, where they come in every 3 years, and go through documentation and other operations related to being the transit direct recipient. Our board leadership has that, when available, we have an informational item related to that process.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to the designation of Great Trail State Day.
So as most people are aware, 2023 for North Carolina is North Carolina Year of the Trails, and October 21st is the first ever Great Trail State Day, and we're looking for a motion to approve or accept Great Trail State Day in our region and officially declare the 21st Great Trail State Day. You can go to the Great Trail State website for more information about it, but we're looking for a motion to approve this declaration.
As just this year or for always?
Well, it's the day. The day would be October 21st.
This
Right,
is
there's
Rebecca
a-
McCall. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Rebecca. Generally, you have to approve a resolution every year approving that designation. So this is our first one, hopefully of many. So Rebecca McCall made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Is there any further discussion?
This is Rebecca McCall again. I'd like to add that we are probably going to have the ribbon cutting or the groundbreaking for Acosta Trail construction on that same day.
Yay, that's worth it. Woo woo. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second, so roll call.
Asheville, Kim Rooney.
Aye.
Asheville, Maggie Olman.
So that'll be an aye.
Black Mountain, Archie Portiller.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Amanda Edwards.
That's an aye as well.
Canton, Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Fletcher, Bob Davy.
Aye.
Henderson County, Rebecca McCall.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Laurel Park, George Banta.
Aye.
Madison County, Matt Wexel.
Aye.
Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
And Weaverville, Catherine Cordell.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you. So, I want to thank everyone for sticking through the business section. I really appreciate everyone. So with that being said, we're going to move on to regular updates. We didn't have any informational items, is that correct? Correct. So we finished with our required business. Is that for anyone who needs to leave? So, NCDOT 13 update.
This is Hannah online. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I'll start with construction since that's what's on the screen. Wanted to kind of make you guys aware of the pedestrian improvements on the Amboy Road Bridge over the French Broad River. We did have a contractor mobilize, I believe, last Monday, the 11th. We are widening the 2-foot sidewalk on the north side of the bridge to 5 feet, and also doing some rehab on the bridge joints and installing some new pavement markings. The travel lane out there has been restricted to a single lane over the bridge with a temporary signal, and that's going to be in place for 30 days, and that 30 days started on the 11th. So you can expect significant delays at that location, especially during, peak commuting hours. But hopefully they'll stay on schedule, and that'll just be a 30-day temporary lane closure. There is a signed pedestrian detour that's been in place since the sidewalk is closed, and they're on schedule for overall completion the first week of December. So that's been, 4, 5, 6 years in the making. So we're happy to have that one finally underway. I will give my standard I-4700 or I-26 widening update. The contractor continues the concrete paving operations on the westbound lanes north of the French Broad River. About a month ago, you'll know this if you've driven through, and I believe we mentioned it last month. They did a pretty major switch out there to move the eastbound traffic to the west between the Blue Ridge Parkway and Airport Road. So this obviously will allow the contractor to continue constructing the permanent eastbound lanes in that same section, as well as continue the construction of the new Parkway Bridge. The bridge contractor is remobilizing this week, so they plan to start next week and finish the Parkway Bridge in the next 3 months. So that's kind of a big item going on out there right now. As far as projects in development, these are a lot of the same dates you guys have been seeing now for months since the new STIP was adopted. Just kind of as you look at, these aren't all highway prioritization projects. We do have locally selected bike ped, interstate maintenance, federally funded bridge jobs, but anything with right-of-way utility or construction within the first 5 fiscal years, so that's 24 to 28. Those are ones, as a rule of thumb, we're moving forward with preliminary engineering. Anything with right-of-way after fiscal year 28, those projects remain on hold and will recompete in P7. There shouldn't be a lot on this list. I kind of followed Steve's lead from Mission 14 and kind of removed our unfunded carryover projects from this list. So these are what we call formally committed or delivery projects, with the exception of I-2513C, which is the 4th on the list. That is a carryover project. Any questions? This is just sort of for your reference. Again, nothing to point out as far as changes from last time.
No, I've seen a lot of work on 26 the last month, so thank you.
Hannah, can you provide some information on how the AG 0001 interchange, the Pratt & Whitney interchange, is planned to be incorporated into the I-26 project? Is there any news on that front?
Yeah, so we're doing the interchange itself as a supplemental agreement to the existing I-4700 contract. They're working on a culvert out there, but part of adding the interchange extends that culvert quite a bit. So they're working with environmental permitting agencies to get approval to go ahead and do the work to extend the culvert. They're treating the interchange sort of like we would approach a design build. We're going to finish design and get go ahead from our permitting agencies to work on parts of the construction while parts of the interchange are still under design, which is kind of typical of how a design build project works. But the road, my understanding is the road that goes up to the roundabout and that actually connects to what is existing, that's funded with the ARC money and the other small federal grants we got is going to be let separately. So just the interchange itself will be included as part of the I-26 widening. And so probably as soon as the next week or two, as soon as we get thumbs up from the permitting agencies, we'll begin work on that culvert. and some clearing that we need to do. But as far as the ramps, those are all still under design currently. So that's really why the overall completion date of 26 was pushed out to February of 26, I believe. Where is it on this list?
That's very informative, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions? Division 14?
All right, starting with construction, those first couple of projects are the resurfacing projects over near Canton on I-40. Just be aware, most of the main lane work is completed, and it's resurfacing shoulders right now, but still there's lane closures and such, so please be aware if you're traveling in that area. That third project down is the bridges there on I-40. Harmondale was one of those that Scott talked about earlier that does have a wildlife lane under the bridge, and some cameras are actually showing that they are being used now, so it's fantastic. U-5888, that's Walnut in Maine, in Waynesville, that will be complete towards the end of this year, and that's good because there's some other projects that will be letting in that area, so that'll be out of the way. The I-26 project, the same thing that's been going on for a while. As lanes are completed with the concrete pavement structure, you'll see a shift in traffic. There are still some closures. The MPO sends out an email to all board members about those closures, but if you would like to be on that email list, then please let us know, and we can take your email, and they'll come directly to you from our communications office. Henderson County, the Green River Bridge project, all lanes are still open towards the end of this year. They're planning on shifting traffic into the center of the bridge so that they can work on the outer lanes. So just we'll give you more information as that progresses. Highland Lake Road project, even though that's showing a completion date in the fall of next year, that's actually been extended to December of next year. When I did the updates, that hadn't been, I guess that just happened like last week. I think Ann Coletta alerted me to that yesterday. Yeah, that's it on the construction side of things, unless anybody has questions. Project development, same projects you've been seeing for a while, basically what Hannah said. These are just the projects that are funded. Be aware in Haywood County that at the end of this year, both Russ Avenue project and the two bridges where 1974 and 19 split go to Maggie Valley. Both of those are letting end of this year, beginning of next year. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Same projects you've been seeing for a while. All the dates are updated with the current STIP. So if you have any questions, please let me know, or either now or after the meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Next is the Transportation Planning Branch. Daniel?
Hi, good afternoon. Not too many complicated updates for me, but just to let you know and be aware of some of the things going on in the background. We are working on some CTP updates, which I hope to bring to the board soonish. One thing for next month will be some travel demand model updates. Every time there's a new census, we have to redraw all of our transportation analysis zones. And MPO staff and DOT staff have been working hard on those. And we will want to bring them to the board. And the only other update I have is I just saw something in the federal budget about change to driver's licenses and the renewal process there. So I think we'll get a little more information as that's digested. But I think those are my just FYIs for the week. Well, I'll definitely have more next month. Oh no, the other third thing, we've been working in the background to get a data sample of short-term rentals in the region, like VRBOs and Airbnbs, and that data has finally gotten under contract and delivered to us. The MPO just got their copy of the data, and we've been working to kind of clean it and start understanding how we can use it. And I'm sure the data nerds in the office are having a heyday. But that is definitely something that we're on the forefront of, and I think everybody around the state will benefit.
Yeah, I think so. I've told the Wilmington MPO director he owes me a few drinks at the next conference. But yeah, to Daniel's point, I think it's an exciting advancement in data for us. Just to note, with our travel demand model, right now the main way tourism is reflected is through hotels and RV parks. So with this addition, we're able to make a little more clarification about where exactly tourism sites are located. And rather than having houses in the model seen as residences, with people most likely working and making commutes to work, now we're able to parse out that, we're able to parse that out a little bit more. So I very much thank NCDOT for helping us with that data. When we engaged the data provider, they noted for whatever reason, supplying it statewide was much cheaper than giving it for a region. And so NCDOT was very accommodating in that request and working to update our model with that data. So Daniel and your folks, thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. It's one of those data nerds. I'm really looking forward to that.
And one thing to note, though, is with our agreement, we are allowed to send analysis of the data. We aren't allowed to send the data itself.
Thank you. I know that some TDAs have been working on getting it by zip code that municipalities can use. That's a different step. It just gives you numbers of the location.
Right. Yeah. I mean, with this, to Anthony's note, what's available generally for free is very large geographies. So like people look up Asheville or Weaverville, and you look at it and it's like, well, Asheville is somehow in like 2.5 counties. So with the data that we have, it's much more specific, and we're able to again update our travel demand model with that information.
When will we be able, I know we can't get a copy of it, as you said, you just said that basically.
Right.
We're not privy to that. But when will we, as a town, be able to get any kind of just a rough estimate as to what's in our, because we're struggling with that in Weaverville. I mean, we have people who think we have 60 or 80 Airbnbs, and then other people who think we only have 35. And I know Black Mountain and other people have tried to make rules, and then I also know that North Carolina is saying you can and cannot do certain things, and we don't want to make any kind of an ordinance that's against the law, by no means.
Right. So for us, we are working on providing a very high-level overview of the distribution of Airbnbs and short-term rentals through the region. I will say, I believe as a high level, we're right around 10,000 throughout the 5-county region, but to note there's a lot of nuances with that. Some people are just making it available like a few days out of the year. There's a lot of people, it's part of their home. So they're making a room available or something like that.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 different, and that's one of the things that I've tried to talk to our council about, is that, I like the way some people have divided it up into a homestay or a room suite versus a complete home.
Yeah, I think in general for us, it's something that is definitely on the radar of our local government. It's definitely having an impact on our transportation network, so better accounting for that and providing what information we can. Okay. I think we'll be working through that through the next few months.
Any other questions? Thank you, Daniel. Next is the Federal Highway update. Suzette.
And Suzette wasn't able to join us today, but we have Bill Marley with us.
Hey, Bill.
Good afternoon. Yeah, Suzette had a training course to attend today, so I'm in her place today. Just a couple things real quickly. The quadrennial Metropolitan Planning Certification Review, not to be confused with the FTA review that Tristan spoke of earlier, will be held in December. We're going to begin it in October with what we call a desk review, where we just look at things such as your plan, your TIP, your UPWP, public involvement, policy, et cetera. And then we hold an on-site review, usually takes about a half to 3/4 of a day. And I believe we have decided on a date for that. It'll be in early December. And the TAC and TCC will be invited to attend the public meeting either the day prior to, or there'll be a section dedicated for that during the on-site review to discuss any thoughts you have on the metropolitan transportation planning process. The only other thing I have is I believe Federal Highway is publishing a report on different approaches to distributing federal metropolitan planning funds. Those will be the PL funds that you receive to do the metropolitan planning to meet the requirements. Where I believe headquarters is providing this as a resource for the state DOTs and MPOs nationwide to use in any self-assessments that you might have of the current distribution approaches and consideration of alternative approaches. So that's something that they're reaching out to get some data on. And that's really it for this time. We're actually, I think, going to be gaining a planner in our office in the next month or so. We've been down one person, but I believe Suzette will be remaining with Asheville. So glad to step in for her today, and unless there are any questions, that's all I had.
Any questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Legislative update. Again.
Thank you, Bill. And to piggyback off of Bill's comment on the MPO certification review, as part of that process, we are required to have a public meeting. So December 12th, we will be planning a public meeting to discuss the metropolitan planning process. We will try to give it a fancier name than that, but we'll send out information when we have more details. But please distribute to your communication channels. Yeah, that's a big process, and we're looking forward to it. With subcommittees and work groups, I won't go through each and every one. Our subcommittees and work groups continue to be active. One thing we will be working on is restarting our Citizens Advisory Committee. That's the committee that has been kind of the guiding force for a lot of the public engagement policies and work at the MPO. It hasn't met in some time since the last public involvement update, as well as the public engagement that was done with the draft TIP and STIP. So we will be working to restart that, and we will be looking for new members to represent our communities. So we'll be sending out information on that as well. Also, just to note, we did have our Health Vendor Forum late last month, earlier this month. When did
Late last month, last day last.
It sold out. It was well attended. It was a great inaugural event. So big thanks to Ann and Logan for heading that up. And we'll be looking forward to more engagement on that end as well. In terms of legislative, I think there's two big things. One is the state budget, which has a number of budgetary items, I believe, in draft form for different projects. But I think we will see what comes at the end of it. I know there are projects like the HU001 interchange that we discussed, as well as the plans to Luda Rail Trail that I think has some rail acquisition funding in the draft budget bill. Also is looking at the redistribution of how Board of Transportation seats are appointed. And so that's something where I think we'll keep following on that front. So I believe that was vetoed by the governor, but is likely to have some more discussion and consideration in the future. So we'll keep an eye on that. Besides that, there is a public meeting coming up on the Saluda Grade Rail Trail. That is planned for October 19th in Columbus, North Carolina, from 5:30 to 7:30, if anyone's interested in attending. Just as a reminder, that is a rail trail plan that is looking at connecting from roughly Zirconia in southern Henderson County down to Inman, South Carolina, along the Saluda Grade rail line, which has been inactive for some time. I think that's about it for updates. Are there any questions or comments?
Just one comment that the North Carolina House just passed the bill 22 minutes ago and it sent it to the governor's desk.
But my apologies for not being up to date.
I know. Right there. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Do we have any other announcements, news, or special updates?
But no casino.
But no casino, well, no casino.
Well, just to note, our next board meeting will be Thursday, October 19th. One of the big items we'll be discussing is the final submittals for P 7.0. I think as we noted, that's a process that was delayed by 1 month. Initially, final submittals were due in September. They are now due in October. So we'll be bringing that back out. And also, we will be extending our public comment period on the draft submittals, and we'll be sending that information out as well. We'll be going through that. And also, one more update, Safe Streets for All, we are planning on beginning procurement for that today or tomorrow.
Yeah. Going back to something Daniel said, or someone said about the driver's license changes, the budget that just passed is saying that you only have to renew your driver's license every 16 years.
But there's also something that says that it's out of compliance
with federal regulations, so it may be deemed unconstitutional.
And they will probably have to clean it up with another bill.
Absolutely.
Right.
But that's 16 years.
My friends that live in Arizona, I think it's every 6 years. I mean, like, literally, you look completely different. So there are people who are literally like 40 carrying around like a 15-year-old license.
Yes. But before we go to public comments, again, Scott, I'm sure you're looking to learning a lot more acronyms in different fields. You can clear your brain from these.
There are so many.
There are so many. But thank you again.
Absolutely.
With that being said, do we have any public comments?
There was a comment from Nikki Robinson from the Wildlands Network in the chat. She says, I just wanted to say thank you to the MPO and RPO for working with us on wildlife connectivity, motorist safety issues. Scott, you did a fabulous job presenting the potential solutions our region could really benefit from. Thanks for highlighting the cost-benefit analysis that shows wildlife crossing infrastructure can quickly pay for themselves in reducing collisions. The Wildlife Crossing Pilot Program is a new exciting funding source for these types of projects, but I do want to flag that there are also other federal funding programs in existence that could fund this type of work. I'm happy to share and go through them with those who are interested in learning more. Thanks.
And Steve Goodman also put in, he's a conservation biologist with the National Parks Conservation Association. He asked for this to be in public comment. He said, I am a wildlife researcher working on road ecology studies along I-40 in the Pigeon River Gorge and the Sam's Gap/Appalachian Trail area along I-26. I much appreciate Scott Adams' excellent presentation and the board's consideration and support, and fully support incorporating wildlife mitigations in the region to improve wildlife connectivity and to reduce wildlife vehicle collisions to improve human and animal safety. Thank you.
I agree, it was an excellent presentation.
Way to go out on time. Any other comments? With that, I'll adjourn. Thank you. Thank you, folks.
Hold on. Can you not?
What?
Go ahead. Can you not end the thing so I can grab it really quick?
Yeah, I need them for the minutes.
Okay. Mine is open if you need it.
Once I close it, if you stop recording.
There we go. Where was